In this video, I'm going to talk about retiring at the age of 30, my goals to achieve by this time point, and also how I'm going to do it. This is going to be quite a talkative video today, and if this helps you out, please drop me one of these to support the channel. Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to talk about why I would like to retire early, or more specifically, financial independence by the age of 30. And whilst I really enjoy working and love what I do, I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life, and especially for the benefit of someone else's pockets. So the idea is that maybe I won't retire at the age of 30, but the idea that I have the freedom to choose what I would like to do, and money isn't a bigger factor when making decisions. Furthermore, I'd like to have the power over my own time and therefore decide with more thought what I would actually like to do, and therefore choose things that I value the most. For instance, it could be seeing and spending more time with family, it could be traveling the world, or it could just be playing video games on a computer. Obviously, the idea of retiring by the age of 30 is quite a bold concept, especially when I look about 14. And I've actually told a few people that I would like to achieve this, and they've actually just simply scoffed at the idea. They just think it's so impossible to achieve that they just laugh it off, and they don't actually think about it or even try to even learn in any way about it. And it's kind of sad really that as a society we're quite unproductive and therefore aren't as bothered about this and just want to work for the rest of our lives and then live off of state pension. Fortunately for myself, this fuels my fire, accidental pun, but relatively, meaning that no matter what people say, or even if they say things that I will not achieve this, I'm more likely willing to try and prove them wrong. And therefore I'm going to try harder if people say you can't achieve this. This has been compounded with growing up in a middle class area, but not really considering myself to be part of that class. I would often see people I know buying things they can't afford in order to impress others that they don't actually care about. An idea would be maybe they're financing a new BMW car and they want to impress their neighbours on the street, but in reality they're not really flexing wealth, but flexing the fact that they're going to be in crippling debt if they lose their jobs. After all, the rich stay rich by spending like they're poor, and the poor stay poor by spending like they're rich. However, due to this exposure to these certain individuals that aren't that financially savvy, and I can't really blame them as we're not really taught financial education in school, I realised I didn't want to be working or in debt for most of my life, and rather I actually wanted to own my time. It also meant that I didn't care for owning all of these different branded items just because they're popular, and it meant that these items I do care about, they were a smaller amount, but they mean greater to me. And therefore I want to own items that mean a lot to me, but not necessarily lots of them. So before talking about the goals I would like to achieve, I think it is worthwhile explaining who I am to those of you that aren't subscribed to the channel. Obviously, if you are a subscriber, then you very likely already know this stuff, although so I'll make it as fairly brief. You will likely know that I try to keep as transparent as possible so that hopefully I could provide some inspiration, encouragement, or even educational value. For those of you that don't know me, I am a nearly 21-year-old living on a town on the outskirts of London. I work in the hospitality sector with a low-income job that barely pushes me above the personal tax allowance. Although I've only been working since the age of 19, and in hindsight I do regret not starting my career or working earlier, I've managed to save a majority of my income simply because I live with my parents and have very low expenses. Therefore, I'm trying to make the most out of this opportunity that I've currently got. I know that for sure I have a bed to sleep in and a roof over my head, and I've got food to eat. Therefore, I should make the most of this opportunity to really put money aside and help myself for the future. This had meant that prior to the lockdown, I was looking at changing my career path. I'm in the hospitality sector, although that's not really where I see my future. I was in fact adapting my CV, it was already adapted, and I was applying into the real estate sector. However, as the lockdown happened, I decided that I'm not going to do this for the time being. And furthermore, I've decided that I'm not going to be looking for a new job, and I'm going to put my focus into the channel for the time being, or even though I'm not working at full-time hours at the moment, I'm doing this combined with my job, and it is meaning that I'm working 6 to 7 days of the week with no exaggeration. But this gives me the opportunity and time to therefore develop myself and my skill set. This means I can finish things like my driving test and also open my potential career path into more of a digital marketing aspect, using my skills that I may have found from doing YouTube. And therefore I have set a short-term plan into place. This means that for the next year, I'm actually going to hold off on developing my career path or looking for new jobs so that I can put my undivided or most of my attention into this channel, and I see that as an investment. This gives me the time to build up my content on YouTube and hopefully build up a big enough content amount that I'm able to regularly draw in viewers and therefore build an income stream from it. However, if I'm unsuccessful with this, and after a year, I'll very likely push this to the side and focus on more of my career path, but still doing YouTube, but not as in depth. But since I am at a younger age, it means that I feel that this is a calculated risk, and it doesn't really give me that much of a risk, as I'm not working currently in an office or in my desired career path, but rather I'm working in a job to give me money and therefore spending my spare time whilst investing in a channel. So now that you know about me and why I want to retire early, how do I plan to do this and what goals do I want to achieve? Firstly, I would like my investment income / dividends to pay for all of my bills or be financially independent. Whilst I don't necessarily want them to actually cover my bills, I would like the idea in the back of my mind to reduce stress, that if needed and if I lost my job or whatever income I am sourcing at that point in time, that I could use my investments to cover my bills and be financially safe. But because it reduces stress also, it means I can be one step closer to happiness. I also have investment goals, and if you keep up with my UK investing portfolio updates, you'll likely know that by the end of 2023, I have a net worth goal of reaching £100,000, which will both stretch my abilities in getting the income to therefore put deposits into my investment accounts, but also my abilities in stock picking and whether I'm able to consistently over the long term outperform the market. If you're interested in actually seeing my portfolio, I'm going to chuck a card at the top right of the video and leave it there for the rest of the video. So if you are interested in that, don't forget to click that later. However, currently the dividend yield of my portfolio is 0.7%, which is a very, very little amount, meaning that I would have to have £1 million invested just to draw an income of £7,000 a year. So therefore, if I wanted to live off of roughly my current annual income, I would have to have £2 million invested and therefore have £14,000 to cover my everyday bills and expenses. Although I'm not just relying on dividend income, and honestly that would be very unfeasible, but the idea is as well that these dividends will be growing. A few of my stocks over the last 10 years have managed to triple their dividend payments, if not more. So I'm hoping over this time period that my dividend income is going to increase and my yield on cost, since I'll be holding these stocks for the longer term, will therefore increase exponentially. And therefore by 2030 or by the age of 30, I am hoping to have roughly a 2% yield on cost. Now, this is where things get quite outlandish. I'm hoping to achieve a net worth of at least £1 million by the age of 30, which would be by the end of 2029. As I said earlier, by this time, I believe that my dividend yield on cost will be around the ballpark of 2%. Meaning that I would need £1 million invested to have an annual income of £20,000 per year. This would be a perfect figure for me at that age, as it means that it could cover my potential expenses in the future, but also, for instance, if I decided that I didn't want to deposit into the ISA, or even if the ISA limit is reduced, that this will be my annual income that I could just reinvest consistently. This also effectively means that if I wanted to, I could fly, travel the world, go to Thailand, get a beach hut for like £7 to £8 a month, live there indefinitely and do whatever you would do in Thailand. Apparently it's like adult Disneyland. Now this all sounds great, I've got these goals, they're tough to achieve, but at least they are set in stone. How am I going to achieve this? And this will all fall through if I don't have a plan. So what is my plan? Firstly, I would like to disclaim that I believe this will be highly unachievable on my current income levels, and therefore my biggest priority is to increase the income I am receiving. Therefore, the plan is to increase my amount of income streams and develop these income streams so that they're all giving me more passive income or income. This is because the more money I make, I am then able to invest more money from that total amount, and you see how that could help me develop these savings and therefore get my investment goals hit. And this is especially compounded if I'm able to make use of these low expenses and also keep them low when I plan on moving out. So I plan to achieve this in multiple stages. Firstly, I would like to grow my working income, as that is the easiest way to do it, as you can look for another job in another sector or even switch between jobs in the sector and get a significant pay rise. However, I know that this won't be a main factor, and that's because I am off-putting the job search for a year, and therefore I will be coming back to this in a minute by explaining my other motives first. The main stage of the plan is to build my income stream with YouTube. At the moment, I only make some money using monetization, which is showing adverts on the channel, which takes up around 16% of my working income. So therefore, if I were to stop working, I would be earning about 16% from YouTube alone. At the moment, with this money, I'm reinvesting it all back into the channel. As you may have noticed over the last month or so, I've got a higher quality video camera, and that was an investment that I needed to make. However, the rest of the investments, other than software, which I may be using to help analyze stocks, I'm likely not going to be acquiring anything else because I see that this money could be best placed elsewhere. And therefore, what I see as an investment would be using this cash and investing it into my ISA. Sure, I don't get the tax benefits of where if I deposited into a SIP, for instance, I could benefit from the tax reduction, although that would mean I would have to be at the age of 55 to draw down upon, and I want to do it before then potentially. That's why I'm using an ISA as my investment vehicle. But this money, since I have a transparent portfolio, means that I can transfer this money from my earnings from YouTube, invest it into my ISA, and I see that as an investment, as it means I've got more money to buy stocks, and therefore there's more content to talk about on the channel. So roughly 65% of my income from this passive income stream or from the YouTube channel or the business will be going into the ISA. The other 35% will be kept in cash, and there are a few reasons for this. The cash is because I'm going to be a basic rate taxpayer. This means that 20% of my earnings will be subject to tax. Furthermore, I will be paying national insurance, and let's assume it is class 4. That means I'll be paying 29% of my income in tax. But what about the other 6%? Well, that money will be used to just sit in cash, and that'll basically be my emergency fund for the channel. Say for instance the camera breaks, although it's very unlikely as it's like a month old, but say for instance that happens, I could then use that money without selling my investments and use that to just get my equipment back. Or perhaps in the future I see that I need to make an investment, perhaps I need a better computer to therefore render the videos. That money's there and I can use that, and that means I can also invest a lot of money from my personal paycheck into the accounts and hopefully reach that ISA allowance this year. Although advert monetization will only go so far, therefore I have plans to diversify my revenue streams. Firstly, I will be creating a subscription service in the future. However, this does require lots of thought and contemplation. This is because I do not want to remove any existing value from the content I provide on YouTube, and I don't want to isolate my subscriber base. Therefore, this will take a lot of planning to achieve, but ideally I would like to have a subscription service revenue coming from Patreon so that if you wanted to support the channel you could, but also that you would be able to get additional benefits and additional value from buying into it. I see this as the next step in generating my income other than continuing and building upon my current AdSense revenue. Therefore, I'm targeting, or I'm trying to create a high value product that you that watch the channel would consider purchasing. Another step to diversify my revenue stream is by using affiliate marketing, which is the idea of recommending a product and generating revenue from it from recommending a customer to use the product. For example, if you're interested in getting a free share worth up to £100 when you use what I believe to be the best UK free broker, Trading 212, when you use my link in the description down below. So if you're interested in a free share worth up to £100, click that link in the description and sign up now. Ideally then, the balance between these income streams, although very unrealistic, would take up a 33.3 split each. Basically, they would all take up a third. The idea is that at that point, hopefully my income would substitute, or hopefully my more passive income, such as the affiliate marketing, the AdSense revenue, and also the revenue from Patreon, would take up 48% of my working income. And at that point, I see that there's potential with this. However, I am quite fierce with my goals, and this does mean that if I don't reach a certain target, then I'm certainly going to make it less of a priority. The idea is if I'm unable to reach 30% of my working income as revenue from YouTube, then I'm very likely going to put it to the side. I will continue developing for it, but at that point, that's where I need to make the decision after a year that I need to continue going for my career path, and therefore just benefit myself by getting myself a secure job and then coming back to the channel. At which point the next step would likely be looking for a sales job. I have the experience with customers now from working in the hospitality sector. I think then looking for a basic sales job will allow me to get the communication skills, the vocabulary, the language, all of that skill set. I can combine the two together and then I can develop towards the real estate sector. But I do also have an extreme backup plan, and this is the idea that in 3 years' time, I'm unable to successfully land a job in sales, or I'm just not very good at it, and that the YouTube doesn't go very well, things start to go on a decline from this video onwards, for example, and that is after 3 years. If I've tried everything I can, I'm likely going to sign up to the Royal Navy and enlist as an officer. The idea is here, and you can make a whole video on this topic, but it is something that interests me, and the main benefit of this is that most of the time you will likely be out at sea. This means that you will likely have less expenditure simply because there's not as much things to buy whilst at sea. This includes accommodation. You may not need to necessarily rent a house for at least the whole of the year simply because you will be on a ship. Therefore, if I did go down this route, I could use this to therefore save and invest more, but also get a very strong pension plan. Ultimately, however, I'm not going to be living with my parents forever, and so in the next 3 to 4 years I do plan on moving out, and so I may need to factor in the idea of using a lifetime ISA, which can benefit you if you're looking as a first-time buyer. However, there's a reason I'm not going with this method, and that's because house prices in my area are ridiculously expensive. The average price for a house in the UK is $220,000. In my area, and this is including some bad parts of my area too, the average house price is £375,000. The houses on my street could be worth as much as 500 or maybe more £1,000. Therefore, I'm not as inclined to get on the property ladder that early, simply because it would be such a difficult feat for me to achieve. So I'm looking at purchasing an asset that doesn't necessarily appreciate in value as well as houses, but doesn't exactly depreciate in value. The idea would be that it would be a smaller living space, but I'd be able to survive. The idea would be either to acquire a van or a canal boat. Now, a van would mean that I would have a lot less stuff, but that's fine for me. I'm a financial minimalist, meaning that as long as I have my laptop, my camera, and an internet connection, I can work, and as long as I have a stove to boil beans and water, I can survive. Although I am more drawn to the idea of a canal boat simply because van insurance is going to be very high as well, and there's less space. With a canal boat, however, they range between £20,000 to £50,000, which is considerably cheaper than a house, and in the time living in it, I don't have to be paying rent. There are some bills and expenditures, and I'm not going to go into depth in that, but the idea is that I can use that money to therefore save up more and then sell potentially the boat and buy a house in the future when I have enough for a big enough deposit to buy a house in the area. But then I could also develop upon the boat, increase its value so I could resell it for a higher price. But it does also mean that if I, for instance, wanted to not buy a property, I could therefore freely travel the UK, well, as free as the canals are, using the boat and continue doing my online business. Furthermore, this gets very complex here, but for instance, I could possibly have a lodger, and if I had a spare room for that, it would be very close quarters, so I'd have to know them very well. But I could also have a lodger, and therefore they could definitely subsidise some of the bills I would be worrying about. In November, I'm going to be revealing everything. This means I'm going to go into detail about all of my income streams and exactly how much I'm earning. So don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the video. Are you planning to retire early, or do you have some criticisms with my own plans? Please, if so, leave a comment in the comment section down below and I'll respond as soon as I can. And don't forget to grab yourself a free share worth up to £100 using my link in the description down below. Thank you for watching. I'm Foreman. Have a great day.